few days ago, I put out a video talking about different players who had high draft stocks going into the year, but everything crashed in 2021. In today's video, we're going to look at the opposite. We're going to take a look at 10 different players whose stock actually boosted during the 2021 campaign, go through who they are, where they could be selected, and how they got so good. But right before we get into it, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, and we're now on the road to 100K. Quickly be sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for the algorithm. Turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. And now, let's get started and talk about draft prospects. Alright, so the first guy we're going to take a look at is a linebacker by the name of Nakobe Dean. Yeah, he's had a lot of hype for a couple of years now, but he's really put it all together and he's likely going to be a first round pick. If you watch the Michigan game, Dean was all over the place. This is how it was always supposed to be though. Coming out of Horn Lake High School in Mississippi, Dean was a 5-star recruit, the number 2 inside linebacker, and the 19th best player in the class of 2019. He saw the field a lot in his first 2 years, but he's really broke out in 2021 so far, with 5 pass deflections, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. He even brought one of those to the house. Right now, I've been seeing him as a late first round pick, and I definitely think that'll continue, and he's a guy who has blown up. The second guy I want to talk about is Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams. I thought he was going to be great for the Tide, but many people really didn't know who he was. Coming out of Cardinal Ritter Prep in St. Louis, Williams was a top 100 4-star player, and he decided he would go to Ohio State. In his first 2 years with the Buckeyes, he really didn't make much of an impact, as he had around 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Because of that, he felt his stock was dropping, and he would transfer to Alabama. Nick Saban was very happy to have him, and so far this year, he has become the superstar for them on offense. He's had 75 catches for 1,507 yards and 15 touchdowns. He also returns kicks and punts, was a Blitnikoff finalist, and is likely to go in the top 15 of the 2022 NFL Draft. Congrats to him. At number 3, we have Pittsburgh's Kenny Picket. The guy went from an above-average game manager to a potential first-round pick all in 1 year. Granted, he only got the eligibility because of everything that went on last year, but coming out of high school, Pickett was your average 3-star recruit. In his first couple years with Pitt, he wasn't anything spectacular for being honest. Yeah, he won them some games, but his stats weren't really that great. He eventually decided he wanted to break Dan Marino's records, and that is what he would do this year. During the 2021 campaign, he passed for 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. He ended up leading Pittsburgh to a 10-plus win season, the ACC championship game, and now he's likely going to be a first-round pick, and maybe he'll stay home and play for the Steelers. Up next, we have another great riser in David Ojabo. He's a big-time pass rusher out of Michigan, and back in the day, he was not supposed to be much. He came over to America to play basketball, but eventually he decided to try out football, and he blew up into a 4-star recruit. He was ranked as the number 19 defensive end in the class of 2019, and he did not play a whole lot in his first few years with the Wolverines, but this year, he blew up. Alongside Aiden Hutchinson, Ojabo had 35 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 11 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. The guy is an athletic freak, he has a relentless motor, and is someone who's going to get paid a lot of money in the NFL. At number 5, we have Kenneth Walker III. You guys probably know him as the Heisman candidate for Michigan State, but going back to his days in the Tennessee high school football system, he was not very highly regarded. At one point, he was only considered a 2-star recruit, but eventually he would get his 3rd star and 1 Power 5 offer. That was Wake Forest. In his first year with the Demon Deacons, he'd have 4 touchdowns and 500 yards, and in 2020, he'd sort of break out. He had 13 touchdowns, was an all-conference player, and someone who would be highly regarded in the transfer portal. He decided he'd go over to Michigan State, where he liked head coach Mel Tucker, and he'd have an opportunity to play in the Big Ten. What did he do? Well, he took it and ran with it. He finished with 1,636 yards, 18 touchdowns, and he tore up the Big Ten. He finished in the top 10 for the Heisman, is a likely first-round pick, and his best game of his career came when he had 5 touchdowns and an upset win over Michigan. Walker was a great 1-year player for Sparty, and I'm definitely going to miss him, but we'll be watching him on Sundays. Like Kenneth Walker, Travis Dye didn't really have NFL aspirations. I mean, he kind of did, but in his career, he hadn't done a whole lot. Coming out of Norco High School in California, he was the 987th best player and the number 50 running back in the class of 2018. He was obviously good, but how great would he be for the Ducks? Well, he'd actually start playing well from the get-go. He had over 700 yards and 4 touchdowns in his first year, nearly 700 yards in year 2, and then things took a dip in 2020. Unfortunately for CJ Verdell, he would go down with an injury, which would lead to an opportunity for Travis Dye to take advantage of. He did. He rushed for over 1,200 yards and had 16 touchdowns. He was an all-conference player, and he's now likely to be a day 2 pick. Props to him for not giving up, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the league. One of the most inspiring stories was the rise of Damon Clark. LSU has produced so many superstar defensive players over the years, but Damon Clark was one of those guys who came in as a blue chip recruit, waited it out, and despite going through adversity, found a way to come out on top. Coming out of University Lab High School in Baton Rouge, Clark was a 4-star recruit, the number 20 linebacker, and the 357th best player in the class of 2018. The 6'3" linebacker would not make much of an impact early on. In fact, he only had 1 tackle his freshman year. In year 2, he had 49 tackles, and in 2020, he was supposed to be the next guy up. He struggled for a while, and he was actually benched. Thankfully, he came back in 2021 and proved everyone wrong. He finished near the top in the country with 136 total tackles, 3 pass deflections, 5.5 sacks, 2 fumbles, and 1 pick. Despite things not going super well for LSU in 2021, Damon Clark was a bright spot, and he's going to find himself playing on Sundays, and this is awesome. Calvin Austin had a difficult road to where he is today. He actually originally started his career as a walk-on, and eventually he would go play for the Memphis Tigers. He was a part of the class of 2017. He would make an impact in 2019 as he had 3 touchdowns. 2020 is when he would break out, as he caught 63 passes for 1,053 yards and 11 scores. He could have theoretically gone to the NFL, but he decided to come back and see if he could improve his stock. That he did. He ended up catching 74 passes for 1,149 yards and 8 touchdowns. Memphis football was not as good in 2021, but Austin went from probably an undrafted free agent to a day 3 selection, and I'm really happy for him, and hopefully we get to see him play a large role in the NFL. Last year, Oklahoma sent Rodney Perkins to the NFL. Now, it looks like Damon Winfrey is next up. In high school, he was not very good though. He went to Lake Park High School in Illinois, and he was ranked as a 3-star recruit. He thought he could do better, so he decided to transfer to a junior college. From there, the 6'4", 300-pounder would blow up while he was at an Iowa community college and became the number 1 junior college prospect in the class of 2020. Literally, the number 1 player. Last year, he had 17 total tackles, half a sack. In 2021, he has blown up. He only had 23 tackles, but he's had 5.5 sacks and has even forced a fumble, and will likely be a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round pick. Good for Damon Winfrey. Last but not least, we have Jalen Tolbert. You may or may not know him, but you will next year. Coming out of Alabama, Tolbert was only a 2-star recruit, and because of that, he would have to go to South Alabama, which was his biggest offer. Once he was there though, he'd make an impact. He had over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns as a sophomore, had over 1,000 yards as a junior, and so far as a senior, he's caught 82 passes for 1,474 yards and 8 touchdowns. Not only has he been productive, but he has the physical tools to translate to the NFL, which is why I have seen him as high as a 2nd round pick. I love these stories, and I'm going to be rooting for this guy. So yeah, that about wraps up today's video, as we went through 10 players who were barely on the NFL radar, increased their stock a lot in 2021. Be sure to let me know your favorite player down in the comment section below, a guy I can include in my next video, or any other topic or video I could do next. Also, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and check out all of my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.